Have you ever heard this acronym for FEAR? F everything and run. Okay, I know it's a little tongue-in-cheek and you may not like to use profanity. That is totally fine. However, I have a feeling that at one point or another in your life, you've probably felt this sentiment where whatever it was that was scaring you, the only thing you could think of that was the best solution to do is to drop everything and run away. Maybe it was simply encountering a snake on your hike and you said, nope, that snake's gonna eat me, and you just took off running. Or maybe it was something more serious. Maybe somebody that you loved really, really hurt you, and the only way you could think to protect yourself was to cut that person out of your life completely, run away, start over. But I'm going to challenge you that there might be another approach to fear. It's actually another acronym, so super easy to remember. It's actually an acronym that I'd only heard for the first time a couple weeks ago when I was reading Everything is Figureoutable by Marie Forleo. The acronym is this: face everything and rise. And together, I think you and I can do exactly that. Welcome to Drawn, the podcast that draws you in with stories of hope, healing, and even a little hustle while battling anxiety and depression. Think you have to wait until you've conquered your mental illness to start living a joyful, meaningful life? Think again. Conquering your mental illness is part of living a life you love, and we're going to figure it out together. I'm Katie Rochetko, and this is Drawn. Growing up, I tried a lot of different things, from art, piano, photography, pretty much every sport imaginable. Whenever we moved, my family took that as an opportunity for me and my brothers to try something new. And one of the things that I tried, fell in love with, and really stuck throughout my whole childhood was theater. I absolutely love theater. I love theater and everything that it taught me about life and love and passion and empathy and creativity. And so growing up, honestly, theater was my home away from home. I was a military brat, so I moved all the time, and yet there was always some kind of theater program that I could get involved in, and that's where I found my place, I found my people. And so theater was really, really important to me, and I just thought it was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So when I was about 15, I was living in Florida, and I was doing theater at my small little children's community theater. But there was this bigger theater about an hour and a half away in Pensacola that was getting ready to put on The Hobbit. Now, the Pensacola Little Theater is anything but little. It's a very prestigious theater, and so after doing so much children's theater, I thought for sure this is what I was ready for. I'd been doing theater enough in my life that I was pretty confident. You know, I wasn't necessarily the best. I still had sometimes like a shy streak, but as soon as I got comfortable, as soon as I started to make friends, I definitely warmed up to the stage and thought that I was decent. Couldn't sing or dance to save my life, but fortunately The Hobbit wasn't going to require too much of that. So I was really excited going into that audition. That was until I actually walked in the doors. Now, this theater was huge. Way bigger than any other theater I'd ever been in, and everybody seemed to know everybody. There were people everywhere. I'm talking, there's probably like 150 people out there auditioning for these roles. It was incredibly overwhelming, especially because everybody seemed to be friends with people. Everybody was laughing and hugging and talking and doing vocal warm-ups and stretching with each other and just having a grand time. And it was me and my dad, and I knew nobody. And slowly but surely, I could feel myself shriveling up inside. The audition hadn't even started yet, and I was sinking fast. Eventually, it was my turn to get called into the room, and it was basically just like maybe 10 or so of us who were assigned different parts, and we got to just read a scene. Well, I got assigned a part, and I was getting ready to say my very first line when a guy in my group cut me off, and I'll never forget what the line was. It was such a simple line. "So it is." This guy stole my line. Now, I'm sure he did not mean to. We did eventually realize that he had just misunderstood which part was his, but in that moment, I was kind of taken aback, because here's the thing. He said those 3 words with such passion and enthusiasm. It was magnificent. He said, "So it is," with like gumption and just raw talent. And all of a sudden I was like, crap, we're going to do this scene again I'm going to get that line and everybody's going to compare how I say, "so it is," with how he said, "so it is," and there is no way shy little old me is going to at all compare to how he delivered that line. And I was right. We ran through it again. I said my line along with a couple others, and I could barely see the page at this point. I was shaking so bad, I thought I was going to throw up. I was barely able to read the words and make any sort of noise come out of my voice. It was really, really bad. It was probably, hands down, one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. On the way home for that 1.5-hour car ride, I didn't say anything. I just simply stared out the window and contemplated whether theater was something that I was even capable of doing. In my mind, I just kept going over the audition again and again and again. And I realized in that moment that this was probably going to be one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. It was humiliating. It was so bad. Then I probably should stop theater. I should probably quit. I can't possibly imagine auditioning again after such a humiliating defeat. And honestly, I don't know what it was that brought me back to the theater again, because that moment driving back from Pensacola was such a pivotal moment in my life. And I remember thinking, God, why should I even bother? Why should I even bother doing something that I'm clearly not very good at? However, there was just something about the theater and how important I knew that it was in my life that I quickly realized that every audition is a clean slate. And I am so grateful that that one terrible audition didn't keep me from participating in theater for the rest of my childhood, because theater, even into college, brought me some of the bestest friends a girl could ask for. It taught me so much about life. It taught me how to tell stories. And of course, I use a lot of the skills I learned in the theater in my job right now as a reporter. So every audition is a clean slate. And because I did audition again with theaters closer to home this time, I found myself loving theater and getting better at auditioning and getting more comfortable with my body and what to do with my hands, and really just having a blast with it. It's hard to believe that the girl who was shaking so badly in the Hobbit audition was the same girl who auditioned for Singing in the Rain and got the role of Lena Lamont. Just how far I'd come in just a short couple of years. Now, even though I don't actually get to participate in the arts anymore, I am still a big admirer of them, especially because of all of the things that I think theater and the arts can teach you. And the theater actually taught me a lot about what it means to face your fear. And I've kind of come up with 3 ways in which we can reprogram our relationship with fear and actually use fear to our advantage. The 3 things are this: preparation, practice, and persistence. But each one does something different with fear. So listen to this. Preparation calms fears. Practice challenges fears. And persistence channels fears. Now let's break those down. So the first one, preparation calms fears. Did you know that public speaking is actually the #1 fear in the entire world? People are afraid of standing in front of a group of people, whether they're strangers or their peers. They fear that more than death, more than spiders, more than bungee jumping. Public speaking is the #1 fear. In the theater, a lot of thespians have nightmares about going on stage and forgetting their lines. But in reality, this does not happen to actors who come prepared. And that honestly is the best thing that you can do when you want to face a fear of yours. Be prepared. There's honestly no such thing as over preparation, no matter what it is that you're getting ready to do. For actors, knowing the material so intimately that it's in your DNA completely takes the thinking out of acting, which is how you get authentic delivery and you really feel like you are the character rather than just portraying the character. And in the same way, whatever it is that you're doing in life, whether it's giving a presentation, talking to your boss, confronting an ex, all of these things can feel more manageable the more prepared you are. The more you know the material and what you want to say, the more confident you're going to be going into that next meeting or presentation because you know your stuff. So preparation calms fears. It doesn't eliminate fears. You're still going to get that shaky feeling in your knees. You might even want to throw up a little bit the next time that you have to do any kind of public speaking. But preparation is really what's going to get you through that key event. Now, depending on how old you are, I'm going to guess that you have given a presentation at one point in your life. Academically or professionally, it doesn't matter. You at one point have had to stand before a group of people and talk. Well, we all know that sometimes it doesn't matter how prepared you are, there's always going to be something that could throw you off. For example, maybe you're giving a presentation in class and there's that guy in the front row who keeps smacking his gum. That was something you did not practice. You did not practice giving your speech to your roommate while she smacked her gum. So when you get to class and the guy is smacking his gum and you just keep thinking about the smack, 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 suddenly you feel like your mind's gone blank and all of that practice has gone out the window. In the real world, sometimes it's, your boss asking you a question that you hadn't thought of. Or maybe it's confronting an ex and he cuts you off before you even get halfway through all the things that you wanted to say and it takes you aback. There are lots of things that are going to quote unquote go wrong or change the situation or change the environment in which you are trying to face your fear. What do you do when that happens? You just keep going. However, even if you stutter, even if you stumble, even if you fall, if you keep going, you are going to now learn how to manage that situation the next time it comes up. The next time you have to give a speech and there's someone being distracting in the front row, you know that something that you can do is just turn the other way and make eye contact with the friend or the familiar face or somebody who is at least giving you those nonverbals that they are listening and try to tune out the other guy. Every single time that we face our fears, we get a little better at facing our fears. That's why practice challenges our fears. Practice says, okay, I'm going to challenge that fear because I know that I faced this fear before and I can do it again and I can do it again. And even though that fear might keep coming back time and time and time again, practice says, if I've defeated you once, I can defeat you again. So if preparation calms fears, practice challenges fears. Now let's get to how persistence channels fears. And this is what I love. We've talked about preparation, we've talked about practicing, but you can practice and practice and practice, get better and better and better, and then eventually still quit because the fear gets the better of you. That is where persistence is key. Persistence channels fear because persistence says, I am going to take this fear with me everywhere I go and I am going to use it as a motivating factor in my life. I'm going to use it as if it doesn't scare me, then that goal in life is not big enough. If I'm not worried about failing in this area, then maybe I should be doing something else. Fear is really a GPS for our mind and our body and soul. You see, the goal is not to completely eliminate fear. Fear is actually the great equalizer. Everyone is afraid of something. So if you were to meet somebody who said they don't fear anything at all, from the abstract like failure or disappointing people to the tangible like snakes, spiders, elevators, you name it, you would find that person probably pretty unrelatable because we all have fears. And fear is actually a really good thing. I mean, God designed fear as a way to keep us alive. And fear is what propels us out of our comfort zones. We all have comfort zones. We all have that place in our life in which everything is calm and tranquil and we are very much in control. However, there's a downside to our comfort zones in that we don't grow in our comfort zones. So fear is really that thing, that motivation that gets us out of the comfort zone so that we can grow and learn, improve, inspire, change, and achieve bigger and better things than we ever would have been able to do inside our comfort zones. The key is really learning how to channel that fear to our advantage. And again, the 3 ways in which we do that: preparation, practice, and persistence. Consistency is key pretty much across the board when it comes to becoming great at anything. And persistence and consistency is also key when it comes to being great at facing your fears. Now, one of the biggest fears that we've probably all felt at one point or another in our life is the fear of failure. At the beginning of the podcast, I told you about the book I read, Everything is Figureoutable. And Marie Forleo shared an acronym for FEAR: Face Everything and Rise. Well, in the book, she also gave an acronym for FAIL: a faithful attempt in learning. And I love that, because we all know that mistakes only turn into failure when we quit. Instead, if we look at failure as a learning opportunity, a faithful attempt in learning for that matter, that's when we know that we are facing our fear of failure head on and we're not letting it get the better of us. There's only 2 true failures in life, and that's never starting and then quitting before it's time. Not even starting and quitting are 2 of the most surefire ways that we stay inside our comfort zones. And as we've talked about, staying inside our comfort zones is not a way in which we grow into the best version of ourselves or how we create a life that we genuinely love. So whether you have a fear of failure, a fear of public speaking, or yes, even a fear of snakes, the 3 things that you can do right now to face your fears is to prepare, practice, and then of course persistently do that thing that causes you to be afraid. Because when we consistently face our fears, we take back the power that fear has over our lives, and we say, no, I'm flipping the script. Fear doesn't have the power over my life. Instead, I'm going to use fear to help me create the life that I love, because when I'm doing something that I'm afraid, I am growing, I am improving, I am achieving great things. And that is what I'm called here on this earth to do. Thank you for listening to the Drawn Podcast, empowering women battling anxiety, depression, and other mental illnesses. For I believe we've been drawn together to create a life we love. You can find more amazing content at my website, KatieRochetteCo.com, or follow me on Instagram at The Drawn Collection.